Welcome to the Aegance Offscript Podcast, where we talk to industry leaders who share their stories, insights, and lessons, unfiltered and unscripted. I'm your host, Lawrence, and today I'm joined by Stephan van Wyk, the co-founder and head of tech at Maaten. Now, Maaten sits in a problem most marketing teams feel in their bones. Campaigns run across a dozen platforms. Everyone names things differently, and then we all pretend the reporting is data-driven, while half the week is spent cleaning spreadsheets. Maaten's angle is simple and brutally sensible. Structure campaign data at the source, so cross-channel measurement and optimization stops being guesswork. Stephan, good to have you here.
Thanks, Lawrence, and thanks for reaching out to me and to get me on this podcast.
Absolute pleasure. I think I've positioned Maaten to a certain degree, but there's no one better than yourself to give us a little bit more context around what it is that you guys do, what are your areas of operations, etc.
Yeah, no, thanks for that. I guess, it's always good to say where we started from. It's actually quite a recent pivot. We've gone into the full product space. We are, some agency industry heavy hitters that have come a long way. We started as Measurebyte, a consultancy for marketing measurement. And that's where we've been, playing our trade for the last 2-3 years. But it was only since last year when we started to, play with some no coding, app development, seeing what opportunities are out there and, the potential of AI, that we really started to see, this industry is changing and it's changing fast. And really, what strategic edges AI is going to bring in the future. We just knew we had to pivot and we needed to, develop a product we had at the background sitting there, our data standardization product, and really, bring it to the forefront of our offering and, basically push it out to the industry and start creating better data standards, but also having better data for AI because, that is already the future. Today is LLM interaction with data. And if you don't have the data standards and you don't have the contextual data that you are putting into systems, then you're going to fall behind so fast. So we really saw that as our key opportunity to, hit it now and, develop a product for it. And that is what Maaten became.
Yeah, amazing. And in terms of the name itself, Maaten, that seems very Dutch. Are you Dutch founded or Dutch HQ'd? Where does the Dutch influence come in?
I'm the only Dutchman of the group, fun enough. No, Afrikaans. But no, it's actually the word maat. Is the foundation, and that's measure. So Maaten is your, measurement friend, or if you would like to say. So that became, the name of our company. Obviously, also for website registration, we found a nice, .com domain, and we're sticking to it. We're very happy.
Yeah, super interesting. Now, I'd imagine as the co-founder and head of tech, you kind of have a number of hats on at the same time. You both need to be involved in the sort of strategic direction of the business, but then also, feet on the ground, working on the product, making sure that the tech is delivering what the market's asking for. I mean, what decisions are you holding on to personally? And then what do you deliberately push onto the team?
The funny thing is, and this is now my own life story, is funny enough, I used to study a BA in design and illustration. So I was brought up and studying that way where you spend a week conceptualize, we call it strategizing, I guess here, and then a week delivering. So you had this constant sprint of conceptualize, delivering. And I think, just became very practiced that, you have to always have a strategic hat on, be ready to pivot, experiment, deliver on products, and then never hold on to a concept or an idea too strongly. I mean, sometimes they are just, the beginning of a better idea of going future on, or they just tanked. So we're in a continuous iteration phase at the moment, trying to bring out, the best product that the market wants, which means more from a tech and a programming side. I have to do a lot more work to, get out of these MVPs, test in the market and see what everyone is thinking, but I'm very accustomed to it. And I think, from the beginning, our strategic positioning is the correct one. It took some time to warm up the other partners to it, where it's very foundational, the phase we're in. We want to get those data standards correct. Once we've got the baseline correct and we have our clients using the right data standards, on top of that, we can build many different iterations and where we want to go. So like you said, I mean, in the beginning, the Maaten app in its current iteration is a naming standardization solution that, already does what all paid media teams around the world do. They're already creating paid media naming conventions and different solutions. Most of the time it's Excel documents, and these, Excel of doom documents with 200,000 rows, and everyone's confused and it's a complete mess. So we're replacing it in a very standardized, enterprise robust solution where naming conventions are linked to all of the data systems. Data is joined correctly. You can analyze it correctly. And we're adding onto it all of the different layers of metadata so that you have contextual written, language behind your data. So that when you go and you interact with the LLM, you can actually, talk to the data. So it's a real person and get answers that are much more informed and intuitive than generic AI slop, I'd like to say the word, of some analysis we're seeing these days. So it's all about, creating intelligence at different places. And we're at the beginning phase now, phase one, which is pre-flight. Before you start running a campaign, we're building that intelligence, building those, basically systems in place and guardrails so you can have better attribution. We're having better, tracking of budgetary that we're going into a system now because we're asking people to add and we're tracking it throughout the system. And so we're just, building on top of it, scaffolding into the product we want to be one day.
Stephan, when you are choosing what to build next, I mean, what's the decision framework that you're using? Is it, customer pain? Is it data integrity? Is it speed to value? Is it technical risk? I mean, what are you using to guide you in terms of making the right decision on what to do next?
So to guide us on which decision to make next is actually one of the go-to-market challenges we've had. As I'm sure you've heard, like a naming convention and standardizations isn't the easiest sell for people to buy into. I mean, there's a lot of steps involved into getting the end result that we are selling. If we're selling this clean data that your team has to report on and that they can put on the dashboards, there's a lot of steps that have to go on before that. First, you've got to get the paid media team to, use Maaten to create the campaign names. Then the data engineers have to go and, clean the data and join into the systems. The data engineers then have to go and visualize the data, and then they have to go and analyze the data, and then their strategists can only use the data at the endpoint. So we're selling this data strategy solution and measurement and optimization. But we're at the beginning phase where it's with the naming conventions and setting it up. So we went to, multiple clients and we're selling this product to the client, but then they're going, oh, but we're buying a product, but our agency is using it only. And they're the end users that are only using it. So that is why we've quickly iterated to developing phase two, where we go, okay, yes, the agency is setting up the campaign names, but then we're also building a data ELT pipeline solution, ingesting all of the data into Maaten. We're doing all of the data cleaning because we set up the standards so it's an easy to join mechanism, and then visualization and LLM interaction is with it. So that's what we've done from our learnings, that we can't be selling a product that, the agencies are only using. We want the end users to be the brand or the company that is now interacting with what we're promising, and having them see, what they can do now is really hitting, basically the nail, and they're really getting behind it now and getting a lot of interest.
And do you feel like there's a fair amount of trade-off in that approach?
I don't believe there's really a trade-off. I mean, at the core, we are still saying, that the data standards is our foundation. and we are still focusing highly onto that. I mean, on most things in app development, it's just, a UI on top of data, databases. That's what an app is. And our focus is still getting that foundation right. And then, making sure that from a tech perspective, we are sound. Some of the trade-offs is that, we have to pivot our messaging a bit because now people are going, well, you're this data science company, or you're this LLM analysis product, or you're all in one. What is, the end, product? But I mean, we've only been developing this app for 6 months, really. So we're still young within our foundational phase with Maaten. And with, working with these heavy hitters with us, they've formed agencies, we've seen everything. We can see where, the digital marketing agencies are moving towards. And it is brutal. And we know that, product that is kind of going to be the AI product that's going to be the co-pilot for marketing and digital teams is what we want to create to, maybe replace them, but also more likely to support them and making, better digital marketing decisions. And, we're going to build towards that.
I'm assuming that you want to reach a point where you can sort of standardize everything so that it's a very repeatable process. I mean, is that the goal in the long term? Obviously, one app that everyone uses, but it sounds like there are some complexities in the background too.
Yeah, it's actually, no, it's perfect like how you said it. It's about that standardization, because we're not giving, other products you have, you can go, oh, connect all of my different data sources, oh, customize my tables like you want. If you create too much customization for the end user, you can't build repeatable products on top of it. So we are kind of, with a regimented approach, standardizing that. Because once you've standardized it, you do lose some customization that, the nerds of like me would really want. But if we have that standardization for the mass market, not just, the biggest companies out there, but your medium-sized, your 50 to 200, marketing teams that might not have the resources to do that, we can build multiple products on top of what we've got as a foundation. So, we've got many MVPs we are thinking about bringing out next year, from leaderboards to, budget tracking, all of the different things. But since we have those standards, we can do so much more, and we can branch out to new markets using it.
Yeah, and so you mentioned making a bit of a product pivot and leaning into AI and the power that AI has. I mean, would you say that that's been one of the most sort of consequential pivots that you've made so far? Something that's really sort of changing the way that Maaten's working, and what the future holds for you?
Oh yeah, oh no, definitely. I mean, we are cooking AI into every element we can. One of our primary focus is being to have the LLM interface for users to interact with their data. Just because to tell you, I mean, I was until 2 years ago building dashboards, 3 years ago building dashboards. That was, how I made my career, building dashboards. But if I look now at a dashboard, there's inherent, not disgust, but I kind of go, ugh, why are we still doing things this way? It's not the way that, the future, it's not basically where we're going in the future. At the moment, you just want to ask LLM, which campaigns are performing. You don't want to look at a visual overload and try and figure out what's working. You just want to do in a prompt. So that is, what we see times are moving towards. So we have to have, AI cooked into that so that you can interact with the data, but also we're doing AI from other elements like creating campaign names. We're now cooking AI into that, so you don't have to structurally create a campaign name. You just upload an image, and it goes from the other way up and generates entire campaign structures from the image. And with our integrations into the different paid media platforms, you can just immediately push the platform and your campaign structures in place there. While a more traditional approach would be create the campaign names in Excel, copy the campaign name out, then create the campaign name, which is a laborious, long process. And we're creating a lot of agility and efficiencies for our clients by reducing that time, by cooking the AI into it in that way. And there's many other features like we decoding images and videos using AI to add more metadata to all of the campaigns, and just, having just fun seeing where we can, build it in and have, interest from the different clients.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think it certainly sounds like you're maximizing on artificial intelligence's ability to make our work and your clients' works far more efficient. As you say, the more traditional, copying from an Excel into the platform is just takes a lot of time, but is also quite sort of brain numbing. If I'm honest, if you're doing that regularly, eventually you start to sort of lose interest, and it's really just a task rather than sort of focusing on the output.
Yeah, exactly. We've got great case studies already where teams are reducing by quite a few headcount because we're saving so much time when creating a campaign. And they now get to spend the time strategizing and optimizing rather than sometimes hours, days of the week. A day of the week would just be like sacrifice to setting up a campaign, and nobody wants that really. You want to have more fun in your job. So we're definitely building solutions they love to use now.
And when you started to lean into AI, and as you say, sort of bake AI into everything that you are doing, did you get any unexpected resistance? I mean, it could have been internally from your team, or maybe it was from the market, like any resistance at all?
From the team's perspective, no, we are 110% committed to it. It was actually 2 years ago, which isn't part of the product we have now, but just showing the potential that AI had, we created a brief generator that took your campaigns, like how your campaigns were performing, and it automatically generated a brief to brief the team from it. And I think when we saw that, we were like, things are changing, seeing how your paid media can instantly generate an informed brief from it. Things are really going to change here. So the team have been, 110% behind it. And that's when we really started going into Maaten. And, maybe the brief generation will make a comeback. Probably that's one of the, many items on our list. But as far as resistance from the market going, I think the only resistance is the noise in the market right now, because I think on everything you will see AI as like the first 2 sentences. I've been looking at LinkedIn companies descriptions. I think every third one has AI in front of it. So there's only some resistance in those aspects. But we're systematically doing it and bringing it in. There's always going to be, the level of AI that you're going to use, which language models you're using. Some clients will only have specific LLMs they will be allowed to use. So, we will have to cook it in so that if they want to only use Copilot, they can use Copilot. If they want to use another one, they can use another one. Mm-hmm. So that's only some of the resistance we're picking up. And it's always going to be about creating, let's call it the mini AI LLM inside of our product. It's just going to have to be a cut and above about, what competitors have to offer, and to make sure that insights, especially, they aren't repetitive. Because I think if you analyze data enough with LLMs, you kind of get the same results over and over. But since we're giving so much more contextual data in each prompt, we're 100% sure that, it won't grow stale, and people will continue to get value from our LLMs and our AI.
Are there any features or capabilities within the app that you're really proud of that, from a user's perspective, maybe looks quite simple, but was really hard to engineer in the background?
So, some of the things that I'm really proud of, there's quite a few. This is not the sexy thing, but first it's just that robust environment that is really important, where it matches any organization complexity. If your company is very complex, you can bake in that complexity into all of the naming conventions. Or if it's a simpler company, then you can just, use simpler fields. You can customize it however you want. So you send a lot of metadata with each campaign and each performance. So that seems easy, but it was probably one of the more complex things. Linking into different APIs is a world of complications. So connecting into Google Ads, Meta, TikTok, DV360 programmatic, you'd think it's an easy, one shoe fit all. No, those APIs are very complicated to connect into, and we're, very proud that, we spent the time registering with them, getting with the platforms, getting connected so that we can push into all of the paid media platforms and pull from them and create the foundation of the data we wanted. And other than that was, some, key insights in the beginning is having people upload images and then decoding them as JSON format for, the AI to read and analyze the data that we made. So there's quite a few. And now building a ELT pipelining solution. That's not part of our phase 2. But, these are really big companies out there that offer this service, and building our own one, making the LLM on top of it so you can interact with the data, and I'm currently playing around a lot there to build it. So it's a really good LLM. Yeah.
What, in your opinion or in your experience, is creating urgency for your prospects or your clients to purchase from you, to reach out to you and make use of your services?
So what creates urgency, and we've seen this over and over again, just strategies, digital marketing strategies, and the execution is not there because there's continuous blockages throughout the system. So, working as from in my, previous jobs as, the data analyst and strategist, I was almost, this eye looking from above and seeing, all of the, inefficiencies, not just the campaign optimizations, but, the campaign creations, the data teams, getting information all the way up the ladder to the strategy section. And then, them finally weeks or months later seeing, getting a strategy, but then going back and going, well, how do we execute on this? And then many of the times they don't even have the foundation to do A/B testing, or to do, incrementality to test an environment and see what works. So they spend, all of this resources, but they're not optimizing the campaigns, they're not optimizing the processes. So what really makes it sticky, and when people start seeing it in action, is you increase the speed from, campaign formulation all the way into insight by having this really clean data. And from that, you also now have a naming convention solution to A/B test, to add the metadata to see what's working and not working, and then being able to report on it. And most importantly, then being able to, in the middle of a campaign, change and alter and, improve things. So, working with the clients that are really getting this right, we're having a lot of stickiness and a lot of, intrigue with it, and we're using as case studies to, get more clients on board.
Yeah, super interesting. And on that note, how are you going about acquiring new clients? Are there any channels that you're leaning into right now that are yielding great success for you versus those that just haven't yielded anything?
Yeah. So I think, this comes back to a little bit to one of my, earlier points, was a lot of the times we were building, our end users are the agencies, the ones that are actually using the product. So our challenge was selling it to a brand, and then they're going, well, why are we paying a product that only our agency was using? Yes, we see, the endpoint might be really good, but we're now spending money for a product the agencies are using. So we flipped the script a little bit, and we're going through the agency route with, they've already built a trusting relationship with the client, and having them sell Maaten to the clients to show, this is the potential value of the product, and this is all of the, benefits to it and what you will see. So that has been a recent pivot, one of our strategies that we are now experimenting with. Another, more experience. It's just partnerships we are making throughout and through LinkedIn direct selling that we're really seeing traction.
Super interesting, and it certainly makes sense to leverage the networks and experience of larger agencies that have been around for a while. Quite interested to understand it in terms of retention, whether you have experienced any challenges around retention, or maybe it's sort of too early in the journey to speak on that.
It's a bit too early to speak on that. I think with contract renewals, you will then start seeing, if there's churn, challenges. But I mean, with any product, you're supposed to expect a 20 to 30% churn rate. And we just need to ensure that our go-to-market positioning and all of that is just stronger with the right sales team to, bake it into our overall, business strategy.
Yeah. And if we sort of take a step back from the day-to-day operations of the company and look at the journey to date, what's been the most painful lesson or the most valuable lesson? Often pain results in value from a personal growth perspective. I mean, what's been the biggest lesson that you've learned building in this space?
I think the biggest lesson is just with any startup in the product space. It's the age-old lesson, even though we make a naming convention solution that's superior to competitors, in our view, it's faster, it's more robust than an Excel document. You make less, mistakes, and everyone around the world uses naming conventions that the market should be out there, that the product will sell. But the harsh reality, obviously, is this, with product market fit, even though you have a superior product, it's gonna, require you to really, identify which markets to, work towards, and finding the right positioning. That I think is something we've been, struggling with and getting it right. But for the new year, I think we're definitely getting there, and yeah, we're excited.
And if you could jump into a time machine and go back in time 12 months, let's say start of 2025, what would you do differently? Are there any decisions that you would have made earlier or decisions that you wouldn't have made at all?
Well, if you're asking the tech guy and the guy that's the building, I would have, said have the guts to move from a no-code building environment, which we had our iteration MVP 1 was a no-code environment, to a fully coded environment, with, what the AI is providing these days. Building it straight in a coded, well-developed environment would have sped our production output a few months. So if I had a time machine, I would definitely say do that, because our product would now have been 6 months more advanced, and I think that would have changed many things.
And if we look at the company as a whole right now, what would you say is working really well?
So I think singularity of vision of where we want to take the company is now working really well. We've gone through the growing pains that, any group of 4 highly opinionated people will, have. So there was a lot of what do we define ourselves? Sometimes a bit of confusion because 2 partners would go in one direction, 2 would go in the other direction, and you would go, well, we agreed upon this. But, this teething issues is now resolved. And we've really learned from it and just gotten stronger as a team and what we're going to build forward.
Yeah, that's amazing. And Stephan, if you look, let's say 24 to 36 months into the future, and I know that that's quite a long way into the future and a lot can happen in that time period, but what do you think is going to be the big sort of game changer?
For Maaten or in the industry?
For the industry. Let's focus on the industry for now.
In the digital marketing industry, I see it 2 key, basically 2 ways of working or thinking processes that it's going to go about. There's going to be the completely automated, AI black boxes, where you just put your spend into the AI black box, and the black box will optimize everything for you and give you the result you want. And we've already seen this with a lot of, channels like Facebook that has its Advantage Plus. You just put in a budget, it automates and optimizes everything for you. Or Google Ads, Performance Max, we just upload the budgets, some assets, and it does everything for you. So you have this school of thought, the black box, AI optimizes everything, which has pros and its cons. The cons being that you almost never know what's working, not working, or why it's working and why it's not working. The other school of thought is that AI as a co-pilot supporting that helps you optimize your campaigns and really intelligently, work towards just, creating better campaigns at speed. And that's kind of, the two schools of thought that are out there. Ours is more on the co-pilot supporting teams to, make better decisions, strategize, make improvements better with human intuition than, a machine algorithm could, because we found many issues with campaigns like Performance Max. There comes a time where you go, well, why is this working and why not? And when, you can't answer your CFO or CEO without saying, well, that's what the AI is doing. It's just not a good answer. So at least for the time being, I think those are, for the next 24 months where things will be going, and, the two school of thoughts. After that, things are changing too much. It's too fast. And we're just going to be ready to pivot when we see the signals are there to try new things.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why I mentioned that time frame, 24 months is a long way away. And in particular, when it comes to artificial intelligence, if you look at the progress that we've seen in the last, let's call it the last 8 months, with AI, large language models, etc., like to try to predict what it's going to look like in 24 months' time is a tough ask. So I really like the sort of the way that your head's at, and those schools of thought both are sort of very compelling. But Stephan, if our listeners and viewers want to connect with you and the broader team at Maaten, where's the best place for them to do that?
So yeah, you can visit our website on maaten.com, Maaten.com. Sorry, some people call us Maaten, which is quite funny. And yes, you can just reach out to me, Stephan@Maaten.com. I'm sure we can send a link to that also.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for making the time to join us on the podcast today. It's been a really interesting conversation, introducing us to Maaten from its early days to, the various iterations that you've gone through in the last sort of 12 months to, looking into the future and trying to understand what that future looks like and how you position Maaten in it. So thank you so much.
It's a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me on here.
That's it for today's episode of the Aegance Offscript Podcast. If this conversation sparked something, a thought, a question, or a new way of seeing your own business, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment down below. We'll catch you on the next one. Cheers.